Friends and lovers, welcome to the boss designs of Dark Souls. What will, I'm presuming, be the final gameplay episode of this particular series. We have killed the lords, we have destroyed all the optional bosses as far as I'm aware. We have fed the Lord Vessel, and the path has opened to Gwyn himself. I've no idea how long it's going to take us to get there, but we are going to get there. And I'm gonna kick his entire ass for what he made me do to Solaire. Hello, knights. Ghost knights. Okay. Well, this is a happy place. Feels like we've passed through some kind of dimensional doorway almost, too. A slightly different reality. Everything is blasted. Covered in ash. I guess that makes sense. This is a kiln. It's like a forest fire that has burned out. Oh, hello. I guess Gwyn still has a few knights with him. Not for long, though. Wonder what that castle is for. I wonder what any of this was for. You move so slow. What the hell is that? It's a crab? What the hell are you? Twin humanities. Oh, hello. Yeah, we're not doing that. No music down here. I guess that makes sense. No anything down here, just thunder and wind through dead ruins. So, is he in here then? Or is this just one of those fake doors? I feel like he's probably here. Alright, old man. If you're here, I'm here to kick your ass. Oh, there he is. Oh, that's a sword made of fire. He hits fast. Good grief. Ow. Okay. Oh, long range. There's not much left of him, is there? Ow. Okay, he's got some combos, and he's got a grab. And as we all remember, I can always put on the giant armor and just chonk him to pieces. But for the moment, we'll try to play fair. For the moment, until I get tired of him. Then the giant dad is gonna come out. They drop a lot of items, these guys. I guess whatever that thing is, it doesn't respawn. Would you care to come over here, please? I'm sure I'll be back again, so get used to this. Let's hear that music again, Gwyn. It's a fitting requiem. That wasn't the sound of flesh. Oh, it's a combo. It's a combo! It's a big combo. What's the range on this guy? Oh, God. It's a lot, basically. Okay. Better. I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say that probably there's not that much point trying to use pyromancy on him. Like, run around with a greatsword like that, one imagines you must have some resistance to the stuff. Whoa! Yep. I do like the music. I like the music quite a bit. Because it's fitting. It's a lot like... Hollow Knight took a very similar approach to its ending boss. In that the final boss fight is not really a triumph. You've triumphed over all the other bosses. Like, those have been triumphs, but this is just like... This isn't a triumph, it's just an ending. Yeah. There we go. There we go. That's a parry on record. Now you can never say I never did it. Hey, Gwyn. It's me again. How you doing? Okay, I felt like I rolled through that, but okay. You do you, buddy. Oh, jeez. His attacks are so fast. Like... Okay. And the terrain is a bit... Okay. Now I'm better footing. And he eats my stamina so fast if I try to block. Yeah, that was gonna happen. I saw that coming. Alright. It was probably gonna be inevitable no matter what, but I'm not putting on the Black Iron Great Shield, even though it would be a good idea, because I want this one to be for Solaire, honestly. That feels right. I wonder if... I could actually kill him with... I can actually go with Solaire's helmet. I don't actually need the mask. Oh, we're gonna come at you as many times as it takes, Gwyn. We're gonna finish this. I've got a fire weapon too, you son of a... Sup, old man? How do you like that, huh? Not at all, I bet. I bet you don't like that. Oh, shit, I can stagger him. Well, that makes things a little easier. Because then we can trade. Instead of just him hitting me. Oof. Ow. That's gonna get me hit. Ah, suck it, old man. Suck it. This is not your world anymore. That one's for you, buddy. we could start all of this all over again. Soul of Gwyn. Soul of the Gwyn, Lord of Sunlight and Cinder, who linked the first flame. Lord Gwyn bequeathed most of his power to the gods, and burned as cinder for the first flame. But even so, Lord Gwyn's soul is a powerful thing indeed. As we've talked about over and over and over again, over the course of the game, we can start the Age of Fire back up again, but at some point that fire is going to burn out, and this is going to have to all happen all over again. And all of that nonsense Guinevere was spouting about not requiring any more undead sacrifices seems to be a pretty little lie, designed to bring people like me here to do this. And so the question is, because we've seen what happens when the world goes dark. We've seen what happens. Manus is what happens. The Abyss is what happens. Darkness. Wild humanity. And we've seen what the Age of Fire looked like. We've seen it. We've seen the glories of Anor Londo. We've seen what the kingdoms of man could be. So, do you try and get back to that moment? Recapture that glory? Or do you walk away to something else? Now, my personal feelings on the matter have been pretty set ever since I realized I was being manipulated into doing this thing over again. I kind of knew where I was going with it. And in order to explain why, we'll have to get a little bit more personal. Because I have seen what happens when people get obsessed with reclaiming the glory days, bringing the world back to an imagined glorious past, a wonderful state where everything was better and there weren't any problems, and we could have that again if we just make a few sacrifices, if we just, you know, hurt a few people. Well, we can bring back the glory days. We can go back. We can make Lordran great again. And recent politics notwithstanding, that nationalism that is sort of implied in that particular stance has never sat right with me. I've never wanted any part of it.
Bless thy safe return. And Framt serve your highness. We are here to serve your highness. Let true dark be cast upon the world. Our Lord hath returned.
Dark Souls is a game about a broken and faded world, stripped bare of its humanity by the endless churning fires of a corrupt monarchy, who claim to rule by divine right, but whose kingdom was actually built on acts of genocidal bloodshed. As their glittering golden age begins to burn itself out through sheer exhaustion, they grow desperate to hold on to their power and hatch a terrible plan. They will murder the most powerful beings in the land and use their souls in blood sacrifice to restore their power. To do this, they invent a religious lie, a prophecy, like the king in a fairy tale promising the princess and half the kingdom to whomsoever can slay the dragon. They promise a cure for a terrible plague, an ascension to godhood to whoever carries out their plan, restores their source of power, and perpetuates their reign. You enter, a warrior afflicted with the plague who, partly by luck and partly by effort, escapes unjust imprisonment at the hands of the monarchy. Enticed by the prophecy, you make your way across the land, carrying out what you at first assume are acts of necessary, righteous, restorative bloodshed. But as you do, niggling doubt begins to creep in. You learn more and more about the world in your travels, its history, its people, its cultures, and as you do, the glittering promises of that beautiful goddess in the cathedral begin to ring more and more hollow. Her admiration begins to sound like empty flattery, and you begin to realize that even if you gather all these souls and perform those blood sacrifices, the golden age of fire will never fully return. And maybe it was never quite as golden as they want you to believe. Then, as your suspicions reach a crescendo, you commit the ultimate sacrilege. You kill the goddess in the cathedral, and the whole illusion of glory comes tumbling down. A scheming manipulator in the dark has been engineering your whole journey, and as you strike down the last god in Anor Londo and set out to claim the final Lord Soul, you witness the closest person you've had to a friend succumb to madness. All in service of a cadre of false gods and meaningless symbols whose manipulations are ultimately responsible for the entire broken hell that the world has become. You set your sights on the kiln of the first flame, where the Lord of Sunlight must finally answer for his crimes, and when he lies dead in the ash before you, and you stand there steeped in blood with the power of a god at your fingertips, you make the closest thing to a moral choice you can, and break the final chain that ties the world to the corrupted, corrosive lies of the gods. This is a game about rejecting prophecies and established orders. A game about rejecting the lies of divine right and chosen ones and natural hierarchies, and freeing your fellow man from the shackles of pretty lies perpetuated by the rich and the powerful to subjugate everyone else to their self-aggrandizing visions of empire. That, at least, was my Dark Souls, or a condensed version of it. I do have some more complicated thoughts about various aspects of the game, but it probably won't be your Dark Souls. Now, all media can always be read from a number of different angles. There are dozens of critical schools of media criticism, and every person, of course, brings their own experiences and perspectives into their understanding of the media that they enjoy. But it's also true that some pieces of media have, shall we say, more plausible readings than others. It is difficult, for example, to construct a reading of the original trilogy of Star Wars where Luke falling to the dark side would actually have been the good ending. It's not impossible, of course, some contrarian undoubtedly has already done it, but generally speaking, the dark side is bad is not a controversial Star Wars hot take. And that's not to say that Star Wars isn't deep or meaningful, just that its core narrative is very intentionally archetypal and built with obvious readings in mind, like, hey, have you heard about this guy called Joseph Campbell? Dark Souls is not like that. There isn't an extended cutscene where a wise old wizard tells you that hate leads to the age of the dark, or that,
like poison in your ear, the pretty lies of the gods are.
Rather, the game gives you a vague history lesson, dumps you into a prison which is very much designed to look like an insane asylum, and pretty much just tells you to figure shit out for yourself from there. And what you are even able to figure out can be almost random, because so much of the information you need is sequestered away in item descriptions and NPCs which only show up if you do certain things in a certain order. And don't even get me started on how it turns out that you can skip straight from Firelink Shrine to frickin' Blighttown if you have the Master Key. Good lord. For me, Solaire and his fate became pivotal to my understanding of the game, but to others, he might just be tragic comic relief, a jovial funny man who puts a bug on his head and thinks he's the sun. What tragic absurdity, what a ridiculous sideshow. Even the order in which you tackle bosses can influence your readings. I tackled Nito first of the lords, and the state of his lord soul influenced my understanding of the whole game. But if I had somehow stumbled my way to the bed of chaos first, I might have thought very differently about pretty much everything. Not to mention hidden areas and bosses and like Ash Lake and Gwendolyn, or even the little changes like what happens if you beat the DLC before facing Sif. So my point is, Dark Souls is a game that can be read in many different ways and which invites many different readings. My particular reading is influenced by certain kinds of Marxist materialism, i.e., I tend to regard royalty and divine right of kings with suspicion, and I couldn't help but understand Gwyn and the gods of Anor Londo on some level as the bourgeois exploiter class of Lordran, and I couldn't help but see things like hollowing and the ritual burning of humanity as a resource as direct metaphors for capitalist abuses of the working class. My reading is deeply influenced by what I bring with me into the game, and I know for a fact that to other people, Dark Souls works much better as a metaphor for overcoming depression, or a Randian parable about the heroic genius, or just as a straight-up chosen one saves the world narrative, as simple as a fairy tale, or Star Wars. So, Gwyn, then. Gwyn is a king. As stereotypical as you can make them, almost. He's an old man with a big beard and a crown and a magic sword and regal posture, yada yada yada. He's Arthurian, the classic image of a legendary European-style king of a nation. Now, it can be a little bit hard to tell in-game, but he's also hollow, utterly hollow, dead-eyed, and with skin as dry as parchment. His hollowness is papered over by the trappings of his office, his robe, his magnificent beard. It is hiding beneath those things. In my reading of the game, destroying Gwyn is really not at that point a triumph. He's an empty husk. He's a zombie with no personality, no words to speak, and no justification to offer. The man is gone. The human is gone. All that's left is the zombified embodiment of kingship itself, which must be ended so that the world can move on to a new mode of existence. No more pining for imagined golden ages. No more pining for the imaginary fantasy of the benevolent dictator. We move on to something new, something else. But in someone else's reading, Gwyn might be the image of the perfect leader, the ideal monarch, someone who's so dedicated to his people and his responsibilities that he gives everything of himself, literally burning his own soul to keep the world from sliding into barbaric darkness. In that reading, killing him is an act of mercy, freeing him from his relentless dedication to have his well-deserved rest as a saintly legend, while you take over and shoulder his burden. His design can carry both interpretations, and many others besides. What Gwyn, as a character design, as a piece of art, means to you at this point depends a lot less on Gwyn himself, and far more on you. Your journey. Your understanding, your choices, your NPCs, your equipment, your playstyle, your good counter, your story, your Dark Souls. I've talked about this before, but Dark Souls is one of those games that I had wanted to play for years and years, but always found kind of, not so much intimidating, but kind of overwhelming to get into. It had a reputation for being brutally difficult, and a community that was known for get good and prepare to die, lol. So this video series became a way in for me, an excuse to have to play the game, as it were, which is a bit silly, I admit, but the side effect I never expected of that was building a little community of viewers who gave me encouragement and spoilers and suggestions and spoilers and who wanted to see me finish the game. As I've said many times before, the Dark Souls series doesn't exactly pull in the big views on YouTube, but you guys are a big part of the reason why it's always been worth it for me to keep doing them. So, thank you for indulging me. Thanks for watching, and thank you for helping me find a way in to one of the best games that I've played in quite a long time. So, this is the last proper episode of the boss designs of Dark Souls. There are no more bosses left to fight, but we're not quite done in this version of Lordran just yet. Before we move on, we have a few things to do. First of all, we need to find Kath. Maybe kill him, I don't know. I know he exists, but I don't know what he has to say, and a lot of people have been insisting that it's kind of important to know about, sort of, you know, before you finish with the game completely. So that's going to be an extra little video where we go and figure out where the hell he is. Secondly, the post-game of this video was mostly me talking about how Dark Souls can be analyzed from a lot of different angles, but I didn't really go into depth on a lot of those particular readings, so we're gonna make a video out of that. We're gonna make a video talking about other readings of Dark Souls than mine, other perspectives on the game, other ways you can interpret it, and to that end, I would like all of you who have played and completed Dark Souls, or even if you haven't completed it really, to go into the comments of this video and let me know what was your Dark Souls? What did it mean to you? Like, how did you approach it? How did you feel when you were done? What did you think that you had done when you finished the game? And I'll use some of those comments as inspiration for the various readings that I'm going to be talking about in that video. So, thank you all very much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, consider supporting content creators directly, and the dislike button is a mimic.